The tragedy of Matthew Saad Muhammad wasn't just how his story ended, but how it began. Born Maxwell Antonio Loach, his childhood was marked by unimaginable hardship that would have broken most people. When he was just 4 or 5 years old, his mother had already died, leaving him and his older brother to live with their aunt. Unable to care for both children, his aunt made a devastating decision. She instructed his older brother to abandon little Maxwell on Philadelphia's Benjamin Franklin Parkway. His brother simply ran away, leaving the small boy completely alone on the streets. A police officer found him sleeping on the steps of a church, a scene that would haunt anyone who witnessed it. Catholic social services took him in, and the nuns who cared for him gave him a new identity entirely. They named him Matthew Franklin, after the saint and the very parkway where he was discovered, abandoned and forgotten by his own family. This traumatic beginning could have destroyed anyone's spirit, but it forged something extraordinary in Matthew. The complete severing from family created a deep-seated need for acceptance and belonging that would define his entire life. He found his calling in a South Philadelphia boxing gym, where his survivor instincts, born from his tough upbringing, could be channeled into something powerful. The boxing ring became more than just a place to compete. It was an arena where he could prove his worth and earn the acceptance he had been denied as a child. Matthew turned professional in 1974 and quickly developed a reputation that would follow him throughout his career. He became known as Miracle Matthew for his incredible ability to stage the most improbable comebacks. His career record of 39 wins, 16 losses, and 3 draws, with 29 of those victories coming by knockout, eventually earned him a place in the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1998. But these numbers don't begin to tell the full story of his incredible heart and determination. His fights were nothing short
more remarkable, and became the defining moment of his career. The bout, which was his 4th title defense, was what boxing writers called a seesaw affair. In the 8th round, Lopez landed an incredible 30 unanswered blows on Matthew. Many observers, including seasoned boxing experts, believed this sequence would surely end the fight. Any reasonable person would have expected the referee to stop the contest. Instead, Matthew did what earned him his nickname. True to his Miracle Matthew moniker, he weathered the storm like a ship in a hurricane and mounted one of the most ferocious comebacks in boxing history. He knocked Lopez down an astonishing 5 times in the 14th round before the referee finally stopped the fight. The performance was so captivating and dramatic that the Ring magazine named it Fight of the Year for 1980, with that incredible 8th round earning Round of the Year honors. These weren't just victories in the record books, they were demonstrations of an unbreakable will that seemed to come from somewhere beyond normal human limits. Matthew once explained that boxing gave him discipline and allowed him to release his frustrations from his difficult past. He directly attributed his warrior mentality to his childhood trauma. Author Tris Dixon, who studied Matthew's career closely, observed something profound about his motivation. He noted that Matthew emptied the tank every time because he wanted people to love him. This psychological insight reveals the deeper truth about Matthew's fighting style. His willingness to absorb punishment and always get back up wasn't just a fighting tactic. It was a literal and figurative reenactment of his survival from childhood abandonment. Every time he rose from the canvas, he was proving to the world and to himself that he had value and deserved acceptance. However, the same qualities that made Matthew a champion also contained the seeds of his downfall. His deep-seated need for acceptance made him incredibly generous, perhaps dangerously so. He used a significant portion of his wealth to support a massive entourage of 39 people. Boxing in 1992. The years of absorbing tremendous punishment in the ring were beginning to extract their toll on both his body and mind. By 2010, the former world champion found himself in an unthinkable situation. He was homeless, living in the RHD Ridge Center, which was Philadelphia's largest men's homeless shelter at the time. A man who had once been a national icon, cheered by thousands and featured on television, was now just another face among the forgotten. Many people would have given up entirely, consumed by bitterness and despair. But not Matthew. Even in his darkest hour, the same resilience that had defined his boxing career began to emerge once again. Initially, he asked his fellow residents to keep his identity as a former world champion secret. He wanted to be treated like everyone else in the shelter, without special attention or pity. However, when Matthew was ready to share his story, he chose to do so in a way that honored both his past and his present circumstances. He began working with One Step Away, a Philadelphia street newspaper that was produced by and for the homeless community. He collaborated on a powerful article titled "Fighting Back," which was featured on the newspaper's cover and eventually won an international award. Matthew's experience in the shelter became a new platform for advocacy and purpose. He began working with the nonprofit organization Resources for Human Development as a spokesperson and advocate for the homeless. He hosted fundraising events, including the annual Knockout Homelessness fundraiser, where his celebrity status could actually serve a meaningful purpose for the first time in years. Through this advocacy work, the Miracle Matthew of the boxing ring became a different kind of miracle for those in the shelter. His presence gave other residents a sense of worth and dignity. Here was someone who had reached the absolute pinnacle of success, yet he was with them, sharing their struggles and understanding their pain. Matthew's message was simple but incredibly powerful, and it resonated deeply with his life's entire narrative. He told people, "You might be down, but you can get back up." He expanded on this theme, saying, "Even if you've had a hard time,"
Gehrig's disease. While his death was widely reported, the official cause was never publicly announced, highlighting the complexity of understanding long-term effects of repetitive head trauma. The connection between his boxing career and his final illness remains medically complex. Research has established strong connections between repeated head trauma and various neurodegenerative diseases. The same fights that cemented his legacy as a warrior, where his face was sometimes described as a rotten piece of meat, were likely contributors to his neurological decline. The applause for his superhuman durability was, in a tragic sense, applause for the gradual destruction of his brain. Matthew Saad Muhammad's legacy transcends simple categorization. It isn't defined primarily by tragedy, but by an extraordinary capacity for transformation and resilience. He demonstrated that no matter how hard life hits you, no matter how many times you fall, you can always find the strength to get back up. His journey from an abandoned child to a world champion to a homeless advocate reminds us that our greatest defeats can become our most meaningful victories. His final act was perhaps his most important. By turning his personal suffering into public service, he made his story of resilience a gift to the world. In the end, Miracle Matthew proved that the real miracle wasn't his supernatural ability to take punishment in the boxing ring. It was his capacity to transform pain into purpose, to create hope from heartbreak, and to find meaning in the midst of struggle. Matthew Saad Muhammad's life teaches us that true courage isn't about never falling down. It's about always finding the strength to get back up, no matter how many times life knocks you down. His message echoes far beyond boxing, far beyond homelessness, far beyond any single struggle. It speaks to the fundamental human capacity for resilience and redemption. As he said in those final years, "You might be down, but you can always get back up."